Welcome to Life is for Living. I'm Kylee Buckley and I'm here with David Riddell from the School of Living Wisdom. And today we're going to speak on dating. David, the dating criteria for our youth and adults.
I wrote this some time back, Kylie, because of the heartbreaks that I was observing from young people, middle-aged people who had just wasted so much of their life chasing the wrong person, hanging on to a disaster, dating somebody who was not ready to marry and didn't want to admit it, people in denial, people with hang ups, people with addictions, just disasters, really. And meanwhile, through all this fracas and heartbreak, the clock is ticking, the women are getting older, the guys are still deciding whether they want to be a man or a Peter Pan, and they're getting nowhere. And fathers that normally should be stepping in and wanting to know, daughter, what is your criteria for a husband who's going to inherit all of our family wealth one day? Or, hey, sonny, what are your intentions? You're here to see my daughter. What are your intentions? And dads are conspicuous by their absence often in these scenarios, and the daughter's tearing her heart out, trying to interpret a man's signals and failing to realize that he's not yet qualified for marriage, or he's really not just not that into her, or that he's got commitment issues. And so I propose this criteria for dating not to rule out potential candidates, but to well, bluntly, save wasting a lot of time and emotional energy on the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've put down these criteria and I've called them the deal breakers. Let me read my introduction. To have somewhere to start in the course of selection of a mate will protect from unnecessary confusion, delusion, and trying to force fit a relationship that it obviously isn't going to work. And so I've proposed this checklist to qualify a person according to a baseline criteria composed from thousands of hours spent counseling what I sometimes consider to be total mismatches. Such a checklist shouldn't be so robust that it excludes a potential mate, but neither so inclusive that an impending disaster won't be avoided. What feels so right can in fact go horribly wrong, and often does. This strategy can also form the basis of a premarital dialogue that highlights areas needing further examination and change for the relationship to build in trust and in maturity. It's not a guarantee of success, I hasten to add. It's just preliminary criteria that can prevent a lifetime of regret later when considered during the course of dating. Sound all right so far?
Sounds good.
So let's just quickly run through these. There's about 7 of them that I call my safety criteria. Number 1, do they demonstrate respect? You date a person, it quickly becomes apparent that they have not been brought up in a family that practices respect. They shout at each other, they yell, they swear, they fail to be considerate, they play mind games, they gaslight, they're narcissistic, they're demanding, they don't keep their word. There's just been no culture of respect to nurture that person in.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be a real whirlwind for someone who's trying to build a permanent relationship. Now, it could improve. Uh, he learns how to love her. She learns how to show a man respect because she never had a father to teach her. Or it could get worse. if one of them or both of them are not humble, not teachable, no desire to please, it can get worse. So that backgrounded culture of respect is love with its boots on, and without that general culture of respect, they're going to tear each other to bits. They're going to hurt each other. They're going to bust up sooner or later, before or after marriage. If there's a lack of respect, there's not enough glue to hold them together. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Number two, are they relationally available? What if they're already bonded to a previous person and still in a soul tie? Or what if they're married to their job, their career, their hopes of elevation and status and promotion? Or what if they'd far rather be loyal to their mother than to their girlfriend, to their father than to their boyfriend, or their pussy or kitten or puppy or Harley Davidson, whatever? Can you confidently assume that you're going to be numero uno, priority number one, as loyalties shift and grow? Or is there a fly in the ointment preventing the leaving that can result in the cleaving together? The essential thing is there some other priority that's going to get in the road of this new priority? And if there is, it has to be challenged, because spouse always means loyalty number one. No argument, no negotiation. It has to mean priority number one. When I'm with you, it's got to be all about me, and vice versa. Number three, do they demonstrate wisdom? When you're around a person that's cautious, they're demonstrating wisdom, they know when to hold their tongue, they think before they jump, they negotiate before they sign up. There's just that caution that can make a woman feel safe, that can make a man feel safe. When you're dating somebody who's ditzy or airheaded or impulsive, or what one man described as a fart in a bottle, you're never going to feel safe with that person. They don't learn from bad decisions. And when you're with them, they invoke a feeling of what's going to be next? What's he going to say next? What's she going to do next? Just a feeling of insecurity. So that's a warning sign. Number four is their chemistry. Well, what do we mean by chemistry? We mean that this person fits your prototype, fits your imprinting of what is attractive. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but the beholder has been through a teenage process called imprinting. And I always have to laugh when I watch the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy, when that Kalahari native bushman laid eyes on the ugliest woman he had ever seen in his life. She looked like a maggot that had crawled out of a rotting tree. And here's this Hollywood stunning beauty that he's looking at. And all the Europeans are saying, what? Not really understanding. There's not going to be chemistry there because there's no imprinting. So basically chemistry is decided by whether or not this person matches my juvenile childhood imprinting. And a lot of men have struggled because the girl that he came to feel care for very deeply still didn't match his imprinting. And so there was no chemistry. And he was worried that he could not attain to the excitement necessary to consummate that marriage because of that. And it's a real thing. I take it seriously when I come across it. And I say to this young man and this young woman, have you got the hots for each other? Can you not wait to make this man your wife, woman your wife, this man your husband? Are you trying to get them down the aisle as quick as you can to claim them as your own? And if I get a nonchalant, half-hearted, oh yeah, sort of, maybe, I say there's something missing here, there's something wrong. It's not all about chemistry, but there better be chemistry present. Otherwise, you're marrying your flatmate, your cousin. You may as well be marrying your sister, because there's a problem here. There's a lack of erotic appetite for this person. And yeah, we can't build a marriage on lust, but certainly erotic desire needs to be part of the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Did I handle that balance carefully? I hope so.
Okay, yes.
Number 5, are our values compatible? You know, if she loves cats, has a collection of kittens, would die for her kitten, but he hates cats, and when she's not looking, he kicks cats out of the way, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Or it could be that one is Islam and one is Christian, or it could be that one is atheistic and one is devout, born again, or it could be that one is all about the children and the other is all about their career. Mismatches are real. If he's a backcountry, high country, sheep station lad that goes to town once a month or less if he can avoid it, and she's a Queen Street cafe artist, then there's going to be problems. And so I would say that they are probably too incompatible. Their values are too different, and they're going to fight. Someone is going to be unhappy. So I really do try to impress on a couple. Marriage is difficult enough without choosing someone from a totally different culture who's going to be as homesick like crazy, who's going to miss their parents or miss their latte or miss the high country. You know, you can take the boy out of the back country, but you can't take the back country out of the boy. And I think a lot of girls miss that. I had a grandmother who married a farmer who lived for his farm. She never so much as went round the sheep or got on the back of a horse. They were mismatched. They made it work, but they were never companions. They never had that soul tie. And I think they both grieve for what they left behind. Number 6, are there any sexual issues? Sometimes one is already frigid, already defiled by erotica through childhood sexual abuse or through teenage promiscuity. Sometimes the other one is sexually addicted and looks to sex for pleasure, recreation, relaxation, stimulus, you name it, sex is the answer. Those two are going to struggle. Sexual issues can really be a wedge that drives them apart when it should be the icing on the cake. It should be the celebration of their love and intimacy and trust, and it actually becomes a vehicle for mistrust, disappointment, and even frustration. So that's another issue. And finally, number 7, is one of them emotionally bruised, ultra sensitive, terribly thin-skinned, reacting to this and reacting to that, but not willing to face it. They'll sulk, they'll withdraw, they'll shut down, they'll run away, they'll fantasize, they'll hit the bottle, they'll go for marijuana, they'll do anything but actually face up to their own emotional bruising and deal with it and stare it down. And if you're marrying a runner or a fantasy artist, if you're marrying somebody who's not quite living in reality, if you're marrying somebody whose compass is broken and they can't register true north because they've got a powerful overriding hidden emotional agenda, then you're going to have big problems. And so I do look for that broken compass. I do look for those emotional bruises in pre-marriage counseling. Doesn't mean they can't marry, doesn't mean they should never marry. It means they've got some work to do if they want to be qualified for marriage, and they have to do that work with me before I'll give them my blessing as husband and wife. Mm-hmm. And often older couples send their children to me for an engagement present so that I can put my spirit level over them and just see whether the bubble's in the middle or whether there's a terrible problem looming in the future.
Mhm.
Now, because of my age and experience in counselling, I can predict these problems before they erupt. I can head them off at the pass. I can alert the couple to them, and we can address it before it becomes a divisory influence.
Mm.
And so, yeah, parents, if they're concerned about their kids' engagement, they'll often fly them down to Nelson, and we'll have a couple of sessions straight, one after the other, and give them a certificate of fitness or give them some homework and send them home.
Nice. And I suppose you can always do follow-ups on Zoom.
Yes,
With,
absolutely. Once they've met me and I've met with them and I've got the measure of them, then Zoom follow-ups are far more effective and much cheaper.
hmm. Here's an interesting question. What about birth order? Do you think that that makes a difference? I heard that you should marry, if you're the firstborn, you should marry a firstborn. If you're the youngest, you should marry the youngest. Is there any truth in that? Or is that just a...
No, well, there is some truth in it. Uh, if the oldest in the family who took the lead and was responsible for the younger ones marries the youngest in the family who basically wants to be fathered or mothered, they never really gain a balance of power. So that kind of problem is a real problem. But it's a wee bit less to do with birth order and more to do with their way of relating to other people. Some people play the child card and pretend to be dependent and they're everybody's victim. And other people are alpha males and dominant and try to rule the roost and communicate behind verdicts. And because I said so's, that might work for a little while. And then the other thinks, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of him being my dad or her being my mother. It's time I got on my own 2 feet and I left home. And that's when people have affairs, you see, because they're individuating. But instead of individuating from their parents, as teenagers should, they're actually individuating from their parental spouse.
Mhm. Interesting. What about different backgrounds, rich and poor? Um,
Again, that's important except for one thing. What is the attitude to materialism? What is the attitude to values? And what are the values? You're right to bring these issues up, but I look below them to see whether or not the values are compatible.
mhm.
One rich, one poor might mean we put a bit more time into the prenuptials, and I always advise that in the case of disparate wealth. But if he's rich but not a materialist, or she's rich but not a materialist, they're not going to have the same problems as if a person with spiritual values marries a person with materialistic values.
Right. Okay. And what about age differences?
Yeah, well, the thing is, there are young old people. I fancy myself as one of those. And there are old young people. How boring are they? How active are they? How fit are they? How sedentary are they? I can't give you a rule. I believe there is a rule of thumb, but I just don't believe it. I've seen 50-year-olds make good marriages with 30-year-olds. I've seen 40-year-olds make good marriages with 20-year-olds, and I've also seen disasters. So, is he an old 40-year-old or a young 40-year-old? I'm more interested in ascertaining that.
Mhm.
And just as important as that is that one hasn't yet had children and one feels like their child raising days are over. That's a problem. We take that one seriously.
Yes, yes. Oh, well, we'll leave it there. I think that was wonderful.
Yeah,
And
it's an interesting topic, isn't it?
it's a very interesting topic.
But I do recommend How to Get a Date Worth Keeping. Um, I think that's very good by Cloud, and Getting the Love You Want by Harvey Hendricks. I think those are two good books to recommend. Getting the Love You Want by Harvey Hendricks, and How to Get a Date Worth Keeping by Henry Cloud.
Wonderful. Thanks, David.
My
See you later,
pleasure.
everybody.
Thank you.